Welcome home. We're delighted to have our alumni back here with us. I don't know how long it's been for some of you. Even if it's been 3 or 4 or 5 years, you'll see change on this campus. Rick alluded to that, and I'll come back to it. But I also want to mention the football game. Rick would want me to do that. Actually, the Carnegie Mellon football game is going to be on national TV. I think it's a delay. I think it's actually shown tomorrow, probably at 4 in the morning or something like that. No, come on. That was a joke. Don't tell Richie that I said that. I'm in big trouble. It's on ESPNU. This is the first time that Carnegie Mellon football has been on national TV in 25 years. Now, it's not because we've suddenly decided to go big time in sports. Don't worry, we're not going to do that. We're still Division III and proud of it. But we're also proud of our football team, which has had, I think, 28 non-losing seasons in a row, and we expect to have another one this year. There has been great change here, no matter how long it's been since you were away. If you happen to be away in the last week, you probably would notice change when you came back. I exaggerate. But there has been great change. You see it in the buildings. Rick mentioned this building. You've undoubtedly noticed the new Gates and Hillman centers under construction, the new Center for Computer Science that's being built in a part of campus that if you were gone long enough, you would not believe that there would be a building that Carnegie Mellon would be using on that spot. We tore down 4 buildings to make room for that. It's not only going to be a phenomenal facility for computer science, but it's going to transform the campus. First, by putting a building, a useful building, in a part of campus that rarely got used in the past. And second of all, by providing a physical connection between the cut, as we call this part of the campus, and that part of the campus, which is actually 75 feet lower. And you'll get there by going on a footbridge from the Purnell Center, itself a new building for the School of Drama, a footbridge that takes you from the Purnell Center to the new computer science complex. That footbridge, by the way, will be named for Randy Pausch, our professor who died of pancreatic cancer. And that bridge will deliver you I'll come back to Randy later. That bridge will deliver you to, I don't know what floor, in the computer science complex, and into a ramp that will take you down 3 floors and to the level of the new campus, if I can put it that way. A part of campus that will be completely landscaped and beautiful. Not only will it create this connection then, but we'll have hundreds, maybe thousands of people every day walking through this magnificent computer science building. And that's the way we want it. This notion about openness that Rick referred to and that we heard from our alumni at the Alumni Awards last night is absolutely true about Carnegie Mellon, and a key trait, and something that we're capturing and preserving in our buildings themselves. So that's the computer science building. That's next door to the Newell Simon building, which for many of you seems like a new building, though for us now it's been there for, 7 or 8 years, I guess. The current home of computer science, and of course named for Herb Simon and Alan Newell, the 2 great leaders of computer science. And next to that is a building that opened 3 years ago, the Collaborative Innovation Center, we call it, or CIC, a building built to attract R&D labs of major technology companies. And that company is filled with Intel, Apple, and Google, the only building in the world that can make that claim. And they're right on the edge of our campus, just a few feet away from computer science. They love it. We love having them. They've grown very rapidly. Google has said that they'll get as big in Pittsburgh as we'll let them in terms of providing facilities and people, or allowing them access to people that they can hire. It's been a tremendous success for the university and significantly for Pittsburgh and Southwest Pennsylvania. one of our priorities. So yes, the campus has changed. Our academic programs have changed. We've got new degree programs, and some of them I'll touch on in the course of my comments. We've become a global university with campuses and programs in Europe and the Middle East, in particular in Qatar, and many in Asia and in Australia. All of this has happened relatively quickly. But while we've changed, and here's maybe my most important message to our alumni especially, is that as much as we've changed physically, in terms of our programs, where we teach our programs, I don't believe we've changed at all in terms of the kind of institution we are. Carnegie Mellon, to an unusual degree among universities, knows who it is, knows what we stand for. Carnegie Mellon people know what Carnegie Mellon stands for. There are a few core values that we've never lost sight of, and I would say we've enhanced and strengthened them over the years. And it's the same core values around which Carnegie Tech was organized when you attended here, or Carnegie Mellon, depending on when you were here. And they're easily stated, though maybe not so easy to sustain. Commitment to problem solving, and particularly solving problems that matter in the world. Lately, we've been also characterizing that as our being a university that measures its excellence through its impact, not just by the number of papers we publish. Problem solving and the solving of problems that matter. Collaboration and teamwork, usually expressed in the form of interdisciplinary collaboration. Engineers and artists working together, business people and computer scientists working together, scientists, natural scientists and social scientists working together. This happens routinely at Carnegie Mellon. In fact, if it doesn't happen, we think something's gone awry. And if there's a faculty member, a new one, who isn't playing with others well, we think they probably haven't been paying attention to what Carnegie Mellon is all about, and they probably won't stay here. That's how committed we are to this. And we inculcate it into our students as well within our academic programs. And third, and one I know every Carnegie Mellon person can identify with, is our commitment to hard work, to getting the job done, doing what it takes to get the job done. My heart is in the work. We actually believe that. We celebrate that. We behave in a way that is very consistent with that. These values, if you studied here any time in the last 60 years, are exactly the values on which Carnegie Mellon and Carnegie Tech was based when you were here. And they're the same ones that motivate us today. Not every university could say that. Not every university would even know this. I would venture to guess, maybe I shouldn't say this because you might go out and try to do this and prove me a complete liar, but my guess is if you stop students on the cut and ask them, quick, what are 3 things that define Carnegie Mellon for you? I'm not sure what they'd say. Actually, I'm sure one of the 3 would be hard work. I can guarantee you that. I think if they were thoughtful about it, you would get teamwork and collaboration. And if you sort of prompted them, you probably get problem solving out of them too, though they might have a different name for it. They might these days actually say fun. That's something new about Carnegie Mellon, by the way. That's certainly, so anybody here graduated in the 80s? Yeah. If I asked you that, you would not say fun. I'll bet you that. Of course, well, maybe not. If you did, you made your own fun. Let me put it that way. I guess they still do. But we make it easier to have fun at Carnegie Mellon today. These core values are absolutely essential to us, and we never forget them. Now, that's important for an institution that's a century old and wants to be centuries more older in the future, at any time. But it's especially important during tough times. You know, we're in for some rocky times. The world is, and Carnegie Mellon is not immune to that. we're going to get hit by the economic turmoil that's hitting our country and will be hitting the world. And having a strong sense of who you are and what makes you what you are really is important at times like that. We know who we are, and we're proud of what we are, and we hope you are too. These values have also made us distinctive, not just in the fact that we know ourselves, but it's produced a way of teaching, a way of doing research, a way of behaving as an institution, which sets us apart. There really is such a thing as Carnegie Mellon people and a Carnegie Mellon way. And they are different from other ways and other people that you might think of. We were reminded of this in a pretty significant way the last academic year, actually a few months ago, last spring, when we went through our once every 10-year reaccreditation process. It's the kind of thing you got to do whether you want to or not every 10 years. Every institution of higher education in America must be accredited. It's a very long, drawn-out, and involved process that involves hundreds of people, produces thousands and thousands of pages of material to explain to the accrediting body what Carnegie Mellon does and how is it that we think we measure up to the standards, all 14 of them, that they have that you've got to meet in order to be accredited. Now, in our case, we weren't really concerned about being reaccredited. We've been accredited since 1921. We're Carnegie Mellon, after all. It would be earth-shaking in America for Carnegie Mellon not to be reaccredited. But we take this very seriously. We see it as an opportunity to reflect on how we're doing. And I'll tell you, there's no university more self-critical and more analytical about that than Carnegie Mellon is about itself. Indeed, that was all part of the process. This time around, however, even though we were confident about being reaccredited, we were concerned. And we were because there's been a real shift in public opinion about higher education in this country, and not for the better. It's much more skeptical, reviewed as sometimes as sort of greedy because we charge such high tuitions. I understand the point. As not accountable. We were not helped by the fact that the government created a commission to review the state of higher education. This was the so-called Miller Commission, or the Spellings Commission. Secretary of Education Margaret Spellings created it. And their point of departure was basically, when did you stop beating your spouse? I mean, it was like you're guilty before even charged. And they really came after higher education. Now, they didn't have Carnegie Mellon in their gun sights. But they had this sort of belief that universities in America generally have failed the country by producing generations of graduates who don't really have the skills and knowledge that the universities claim that they do and presumably believe that they do. Again, I don't believe if one had ever said to any of them, what do you mean? You're talking about Carnegie Mellon? They would have said, oh, no, not Carnegie Mellon. Indeed, they weren't. But rather, they were talking about the non-Carnegie Mellons, if I can put it that way. You know, there are 4,000 institutions of higher education in this country. Even though they weren't talking about us, we go through the same accreditation process that every other university does. So we were worried. And this concern and this sort of skepticism in the air was manifest in particular in terms of what they call assessment, student outcomes assessment. And what they mean by that is, how can a university prove to the public, to the world, that our students really know what we claim they know? How do you know that they've really learned calculus, and in particular the dimensions of calculus, or business, or whatever they're studying? That's called assessment. The other thing we were worried about was general education. Now, that's not a concern of most universities, but it is here because we approach general education, the sort of the parts of a student's program not in their major. We approach that differently than most universities. In most universities, there is a core curriculum, a set of courses that every student must take. At Carnegie Mellon, there's only one course everybody has to take. That's Computer Skills Workshop. We're Carnegie Mellon, what can I say? Really, it's the only course required of all students. Now, that's not to say students don't have required courses, but the requirements are set by their college or their department even, depending on the program, including their general education requirements. That is, each department at Carnegie Mellon is free to determine how, in their view, their students should get broadening in their educational experience. This made the accreditors very nervous about Carnegie Mellon because we break the mold. Well, they came, they being a team of about a dozen senior administrators and faculty from other universities. That's how we do accreditation. They came for 4 days, and after the first day, they met with me and they said, "We are so impressed. We can't believe how good you are." And all the things that they were concerned about, in fact, indeed, some of the special meetings they had scheduled to pursue questions like assessment and general education, they canceled and said, well, we don't really have to pursue that because we're convinced. And what convinced them more than anything was a meeting they had with 50 of our students. By the way, the students self-selected. We did not choose them. They were so impressed by our students and what our students had to say about their general education experiences and about they could see for themselves assessment in action in a way because these students were so self-reflective about what they did here. I want to say a little bit more about the general education thing because it really captures something special about Carnegie Mellon. One way to think about this is one of our colleagues put it this way, and I kind of like the metaphor. If you think about the way most universities do undergraduate education, it's like a funnel. Students come in, an upside down funnel, or the wide parts at the bottom. So students come in, and they're all more or less taking the same stuff. It's all very broad. They want them to take 2 from column A and 1 from column B. And then around their sophomore, junior year, they start getting specialized in their major. So it's a funnel. I guess I could have put it at the top going down, but you get the point. You start broad, and then you narrow, and then you narrow. Carnegie Mellon turns the funnel upside down. You're admitted as an engineer. You're admitted as a humanities scholar. You're admitted as a business major. From the very beginning, you are in the narrow part of the funnel, if you will. And from the very beginning, unlike students in a lot of places, you start learning about your chosen major and profession, which is actually a good thing. We don't overdo that, but students get into it right away. They're sort of thrown into the deep end of the pool, if you will. Now, at the same time, though, your major is determining what else you ought to be doing, because surely to be a great business leader, you have to know more than just finance or economics. You have to know how to write. You ought to be exposed to the arts. You certainly should study history and humanities, and political science, etc. We all know that, and we know that here at Carnegie Mellon. But as a university, we don't tell the Tepper School, your students have to do this. We let them decide what the best general education exposure for a Tepper School student would be. And it's produced some wonderful things, I have to tell you. So, for example, the Tepper School, back to the Tepper School, they think their students should have more writing courses than any other of the other majors around, except, of course, if you're majoring in writing, you get more writing than anybody. But other than non-writing majors, they require additional writing courses for their students. Bravo, good for them. That's a good thing. The future leaders of business in this country and the world ought to do that kind of thing. Another thing that's happened, though, is that as a university, we've sought to, if I can put it this way, layer on top of what the departments and colleges require of their students. a series of course opportunities, I'll put it that way, that touch on major global themes that we think all students should be exposed to. We as a university think they should be exposed to. But again, without requiring a particular course. What I have in mind is our series of courses related to green issues, energy and environment. With a grant from the Luce Foundation some years ago, we created 30 additional environmental courses in all 7 of our colleges that are accessible to students at all levels, including their first year. We did a similar thing, have started a similar thing in terms of international issues, global issues, all aspects of global issues. And in this case, we got a grant from the Carnegie Foundation that allowed us to do this. And again, there are international courses being developed in each of the colleges. So when students here get exposed to international issues, it's not just by going to an international relations program, but it's taking a course that deals with international business issues in the Tepper School, if you're a business student, or managing international engineering projects, if you're in CIT. It's terrific. A third is ethics. Thanks to the generosity of Lowell Steinbrenner, an alumnus and member of our Board of Trustees, we were able to create some ethics modules that were incorporated into courses throughout the university. And let me give you an anecdote. Actually, I used it yesterday at a Board of Trustees meeting, which is my favorite example of how this works. A few years ago, we did something. I was proposing to do something that upset students. Imagine Carnegie Mellon students getting upset about something. And upset enough to have a petition writing campaign and getting 800 petitions in protest. And the 2 student ringleaders made an appointment to see me and came marching into my office. And the spokesman started out by saying, "I'm a sophomore." And I'm thinking, God, if I could not have said even that much as a sophomore to the president. I'm a sophomore, and I majored in computer science, and in my robotics course last semester, we had 2 weeks on ethics. And what you're doing, Mr. President, is unethical. I could have kissed this kid. I thought it was magnificent. Now, and if we said every computer science student has to take a course in ethics in the philosophy department, this wouldn't have happened. He got it in a 2-week module embedded into his robotics course. Brilliant. That's the way Carnegie Mellon does things. This is, I don't know if it's unique, I don't know enough about the 4,000 institutions of higher education, but I can tell you among our peers, it is unique. And it is a very powerful way to do undergraduate education. It's why we're so proud of our students, and they're doing such wonderful things. I could go on, but it seems like I've used almost all my time just on that issue alone. Let me just mention we have invested a great deal in facilities and in programs, in expanding and enriching the extracurricular activities for our students. There's so much more that happens on this campus now than happened 10 years ago, and certainly 20 or 30 or 40 years ago. All good, all just very exciting. Much of it student conceived and student run, which is the best kind. And one example of this is that for our first year students, we started recently, a few years ago, a program we call the Big Questions Program. And the idea is that to develop small discussion groups within the dormitories, not in the classroom, but within the dormitories, talking about big questions, the meaning of life, which is probably the biggest question you can think of. This last year, over the summer, after Randy Pouch's book, The Last Lecture, was published, we sent a copy to each of our new students, all 1,400 or 1,350 freshmen coming in. And that became the basis for the Big Questions discussions. It was a wonderful, and is an ongoing, wonderful experience for these students in a lot of ways. The chance to talk about big, deep questions, but also a chance to interact with students very, very different from themselves early on in their Carnegie Mellon experience. And let me say a little bit about Randy. I mean, he was an amazing person, and one of the things about Randy was that what you got is what you saw. So the persona that you might have seen on TV, the person you think he was by reading his book or watching his last lecture, that really was Randy. It was completely genuine. And another thing about Randy is that he loved Carnegie Mellon, absolutely loved Carnegie Mellon. In fact, one of the major reasons why he subjected himself to all the media exposure he did as he was dying was to promote Carnegie Mellon. It's unbelievable, actually. And I've been accused by students of exploiting Randy's notoriety and his terminal cancer, which I didn't really appreciate, but I understand. That was all Randy's doing. And he always insisted to be identified as a Carnegie Mellon professor and be allowed to wear a Carnegie Mellon t-shirt. He was amazing. He was shameless, actually, the way he promoted Carnegie Mellon. We will never know what impact Randy and Randy's story has had on this university. But one of the things that I no longer hesitate to say, because I think a lot of people have felt this way, have come to feel this way, is that we should be very proud that we're the university where Randy could develop the way he did as a professor. I'd like to say as a human being, but I think I'd give his parents credit for that. And Randy, if he were here, would be the first to agree with that. He always felt that Carnegie Mellon was truly special and that he could not have done what he did anywhere else. It's not bad to be known as the university that was Randy's university, and probably could have only been the only one that could have been Randy's university. Carnegie Mellon has done phenomenally well in research in recent years. It's not a new phenomenon, but that just keeps growing and getting better and more impactful. There are a couple of things to keep in mind about the way we do things here, which helps you appreciate what we have achieved and gives you some insight into what's to come. First of all, the thing that I think is so important is this collaborative spirit we have, our ability to work across disciplinary barriers. Back to the Middle States, the accreditation team. So one of the cuter interactions I had with them was at this meeting at the end of their first day. They said to us, "You really do interdisciplinary collaboration." I mean, totally aghast. And we said, "Yeah, that's right, we do." And they said, "Well, we claim to do it, and we write about it all the time at our university, just the way you do, but you really do it. We never expected that." And we said, "Well, we wrote it as clearly as we could in our self-study document." They said, "Yeah, but everybody writes that." And they encouraged us to think of a new way of writing about it, a new term for it, because interdisciplinary collaboration has become so overused that no one believes it anymore. But in fact, that's the way of life at Carnegie Mellon. That we are organized around that idea. It's totally part of our DNA, and it's the reason why we are so successful and we have the impact we do. Ray Lane, who I'm going to introduce to you in a moment, coined the phrase disproportionate impact in talking about Carnegie Mellon. And he's absolutely right about that. We're not a large university. We're smaller than most of our peers and competitors. But our impact is far greater than our size. And one of the major ways we do that is by leveraging what we have through interdisciplinary collaboration. Collaboration is the key for us. A second thing I'd like to mention is, again, appealing back to last night's alumni award ceremony, and Rick cited this. One of our award recipients, who's now also an alumnus, who's now also one of our faculty members in art, said, "What I love about Carnegie Mellon, the reason I came back, is because of its openness and its willingness to take risk. Love to hear that. He had been elsewhere. He had experienced universities not as open or as willing as we are to work outside of the mainstream. And by the way, this was an art professor talking who works very heavily with people in engineering and computer science. And I'm sure his stuff is edgy, and I'm sure I'm going to regret this someday when he does something outrageous. But that's all part of the game. We welcome the opportunity to take risks. Not every risk. We take prudent risks institutionally. But when it comes to research, when it comes to exploring ideas, there's nothing off the table, because it might lead us to something new and better, and maybe breathtakingly so. Teamwork, interdisciplinary collaboration, openness, and a willingness to take risk. That is Carnegie Mellon when it comes to research, and it's why we've had the tremendous impact we've had. We're doing research in many, many important areas. We just went through a year-long review of our old strategic plan, and just yesterday our Board of Trustees approved the new revised plan. You can visit our website to take a look at it if you want to read it in more detail. It focuses on the same priorities from the old plan, but updated and revised. And with regard to research, we have decided to focus on a handful of, we see as overarching topics and issues. Now let me emphasize, these are not exclusive. That is, doesn't mean we're only going to work on these things, but things to keep our eye on and for things for you to watch out for. And the top of the list is energy and environment. A major global issue, has been for a long time, but many of us feel that it's going to be the issue for our children's generation. I suppose you could say, regrettably. Health and quality of life, an area where we've made great strides in the last decade in expanding our life sciences faculty. Another area, and one where we're a little bit hesitant about using the words because it's so bold. We can be bold, but we usually don't talk bold, is transforming society through information, computation, and communication. Not making society better, not changing a little bit, transforming society through information, computation, and communication. You know, it's interesting to watch this. I did watch this. I didn't really participate that much in the discussions. We would not have said this 10 years ago, even though computer science and computing, information technology, and communications represented one of our major priorities from 10 years ago. This shows a certain confidence that Carnegie Mellon has acquired. It also shows that we've come to realize that the way we do, I have no idea what I just did. That could have been a not so subtle message. I get the point, and I'm almost done. I am done. Thank you very much. Wow. So, you know, I forgot to note that this is the closest Rick Creech and I will ever come to being in a Scotch and soda presentation. And now I know what it's like, you know, to be part of the show. We are so strong in these areas, and we've organized them in a way that simply no other university is close to and can even touch. I can go into that. Invite me back sometime, and I'll go more deeply into that. I'm delighted by this, and it is no less than what it claims to be. Transforming every aspect of society, including, by the way we do science. One aspect of this, by the way, is something called computational biology. And it recognizes the opportunity that comes from the convergence of information technology with biotechnology. It's what's going to cure cancer. It's what's going to develop personalized medicine, something you've heard about and we've heard about for some time. And it's all organized around the notion that we've got huge amounts of data now, the human genome, for example, and much more coming. But we don't really know how to take advantage of that data. That's a computer science problem or a computational problem. And what we need are biologists and computer scientists who can work together. Well, there's no better place in the world for that to happen than at Carnegie Mellon. And we were delighted that last year, Ray and Stephanie Lane endowed the new Ray and Stephanie Lane Center for Computational Biology, devoted to exactly what I'm talking about. It's my great pleasure to introduce to you now Ray Lane. Ray is a member of our Board of Trustees and the chair of our capital campaign. He's the managing partner of Kleiner Perkins, Caulfield and Byers, the world's leading venture capital firm. He's also a media star, a bona fide media star, unlike me, Rick, having appeared on 60 Minutes a couple weeks ago for his work on electric-powered vehicles, and having been on the cover of the New York Times Magazine for his other work in environment. Ladies and gentlemen, Ray Lane.
Thank you. All of us that have been associated with Carnegie Mellon's last 100 years are, of course, very, very proud of what the university has accomplished, what it represents today, its reputation, and this weekend is all about looking forward to the next 100 years. So in a small way, we each have an opportunity to be Andrew Carnegie and think about and embrace and be creative and innovative about the vision for the university over the next 100 years, and of course be a part of sharing resources to make it happen. My connection with Carnegie Mellon University is personal. I'm not an alumnus, but it is personal. I grew up here in Pittsburgh. My father attended Carnegie Tech. He didn't do it in a traditional fashion, 4 years and out. He started here, and the family did not have a lot of money, and circumstances which I will not bore you with, just he couldn't continue his education. So he became a project engineer at Blawnox, designing rolling mills. In fact, holds a few patents for some of the rolling mill designs that he has. But he wanted a degree from Carnegie Mellon so badly that he continued to pursue it for 16 years. Night school, class here, class there. So I grew up with my father attending the university, and I have fond memories of when I was 9 and 10 and 11 years old coming to campus. The same way we now bring RJ to campus, and he is getting that experience. The other night, I stepped into CFA's foyer, and there was Kresge Auditorium under renovation, which I'm sure it needs, because I remember when I was 10 years old attending Shakespeare plays that he would bring me to. He loved to go to the Shakespeare plays. Even though he was a mechanical engineer, he knew the value and the resources and the talent of this university. So when I was asked, I guess now 5 years ago, to chair this campaign, the same as when I was asked, 15 or 16 years ago to be a trustee of the university, I immediately said yes. Of course, in California, where I live, and people around me said, "Are you nuts chairing a campaign? This is real work. This is really hard to do, and you're going to do it remotely." And I said, well, with the talent this university has and the commitment it has to build an advancement staff and to reach out to his alumni base, which have nothing but the highest opinion for Carnegie Mellon, I actually think this will be easy. So I said yes. The reason I said yes goes beyond just my love for the university. Over the last 20 years, as I've worked at Oracle and Booz Allen and Kleiner Perkins, a lot of my activity has taken me on to really great campuses. Harvard, MIT, Stanford, Berkeley. I've seen a lot of high-quality universities because I like to recruit their students. And it was very evident to me that there was a war on, that there was a war happening that was growing every day as I saw the war chests, and it's nothing short of that. Believe me, it's nothing short of that. When you see Stanford at whatever it is now, $15 or $20 billion in the endowment, and Princeton with $30 billion in its endowment, and Harvard with these numbers are unbelievable. You don't know what to do with the money. It just sits in the endowment. And Carnegie Mellon with less than $1 billion in its endowment. Well, how does Carnegie Mellon compete with Harvard and MIT and Stanford and Berkeley and other universities have endowments that are 15 to 30 times bigger? And I looked at that, as did all the trustees, as did Jerry, and said, we can't. It's going to be tougher and tougher. Amazing the decisions I see every day by faculty to stay here because of their love for the university, knowing that they could get labs, graduate assistants, bigger salaries, all the tchotchkes they want, and they stay here. Well, that, over a period of time, just starts to wear down. And finally, some faculty might just say, and they have said, I can't turn this down for my family, for my career. So it takes resources. We must have the labs. We must have the research. We must have the endowed chairs, the endowed centers to compete. It's a war. If we do not keep up, if we do not, and $1 billion campaign, most of which goes into the endowment, is just keeping up. If we don't do that, then be prepared to not enjoy the reputation that we've enjoyed for the last 20 years or 100 years. It's as simple as that. It'll happen over a long period of time, but it will happen because we won't be able to retain the best. That's what this is about. Sorry. Must be the mirror. Turn that off. So that's what this is about. It's about a war for talent. Just like we see in corporations, we see in sports. I mean, my God, the rock stars should be faculty. Why do we celebrate sports figures so much when we should be celebrating faculty, academic achievement? He really wants to talk. So that's what it needs to be about, and that's what we need to celebrate. And we do have rock stars. We do have rock stars. And we need to talk more about them. So the university began this campaign 5 years ago. What we've achieved is really remarkable. $550 million have been raised already. Now, we started the campaign in a recession. You could argue whether it was a real recession, but in 2001, 2002, obviously the bubble that I lived in, but the bubble burst. And we had a tech-led recession that affected everyone's portfolio in some fashion. Then 9/11 happened. So as we started a recession, as 9/11 happens, we decide to start a campaign. And Ray is naive enough to chair it, okay? And so we started the campaign, and we didn't want to mention the B word. We didn't want to, where everyone was walking on eggshells and talking about, could this be a $1 billion campaign? Should it be more? Should we say this is a $850 million campaign? It just doesn't roll off the tongue as well. So we didn't talk about it. In a Carnegie Mellon fashion, we didn't talk about it. Let's see how we do. Let's start the campaign. And so 5 years have achieved $550 million in this campaign, and this weekend we go public and say in the next 5 years we want this to be a $1 billion campaign or more. We're not shy about the B word anymore because we've seen the friends and family of this university give and give a lot. It's more than just simply raising the money. Most campaigns, in fact, you have some universities that never get out of campaigns. As soon as they end one, they start another one. So it's not about getting to $1 billion and say, wow, that was fun, we're done. This is about increasing the annual participation of those that love this university. This is about engaging alumni. Maybe some of you for the first time, but stay engaged with the university over your lifetime. This is about building a worldwide reputation. I delivered a commencement speech in May of this year in Doha to the first graduating class of Carnegie Mellon in Qatar. A worldwide reputation that is well understood in many, many countries around the world, and maybe in some countries better than the United States. So that's what this is about, is to change the game at this university and all of its constituents and the support of the university over time. So as you look at this campaign and examine what it's about and your interaction with the university, you'll be asked, and you will ask, why invest in Carnegie Mellon? There are a lot of places to invest. Personally, in association with others, charities, there are no shortage of places to invest. And why Carnegie Mellon? And my simple answer is because Carnegie Mellon deserves it more than anybody else. Of all the opportunities, Carnegie Mellon deserves your attention. I spoke last night, as we always do in Carnegie Mellon, try to put things into a formula. And I developed a simple quotient, and that is our reputation per dollar. The reputation, the disproportionate impact that Jerry talked about, that Carnegie Mellon established in the world for the dollars that are invested in that, the outcome or impact for the dollars that go in, greater than any other investment you can make. It's tremendous. Whether you're talking about the energy and environment, or you're talking about life sciences, or you're talking about next-gen computing, we expect Carnegie Mellon to save the planet, resolve cancer, okay, and make our children's and grandchildren's lives much better than ours. The mission is no less than that for the Carnegie Mellon students and faculty that are here today. That is the mission. So we have to do our part to support it. So this is again, last night, he really wants to talk to me. So last night I talked about an innovation culture, that Carnegie Mellon has an innovation culture. You can find innovative societies at MIT and Harvard, Stanford and Berkeley and other places. There's no lack of innovation in U.S. universities. It's maybe the last great, unique product that the United States has is education, if you just look at how much of it we export. And there's no lack of culture. You believe me, if you still go onto the Berkeley campus, you'll find plenty of culture. So But having them together, very unique here at Carnegie Mellon. And I don't need to tell you what Jerry has told you very eloquently about our multidisciplinary approach. But last night, it's very interesting. We arrived at the affair last night at around 6 or 6:30. And it was raining a little bit, so we snuck in the side basement door in CFA. And at the bottom of the stairs, we were going to go up the stairs to the tent. And at the bottom of the stairs, there was a second-year graduate student, a percussionist, practicing on a xylophone. And it was really interesting to listen to him play. And so I introduced myself and asked him about his background. He's from Cleveland. And I said, boy, it's Friday night, 7 o'clock. There's a party going on next door. You must be just boning up for a test or something. He says, nope. He says, I want to play in a symphony. I mean, he just hit me right in the face with this. I'm going to play in a symphony. I want to play in the best symphony. And I know the competition is going to be really, really tough. And the only way I'm going to get that job is work, and work 24 hours a day. At 11 o'clock, when the fireworks were over, we were going out to the car and came down those same steps. He was still there, practicing. Friday night, party going on, fireworks going off over his head. I don't think he took a break. I said, go upstairs. There's a bunch of desserts upstairs. Nobody's eating. He says, okay. Really amazing. Really an amazing story. So this innovation culture is what this campaign is about. It is the way we do the work, not the work. Not the ideas. The way the ideas get accomplished and delivered to society is what Carnegie Mellon's kind of comparative advantage is. And we want to make sure we retain that comparative advantage, because that's really hard to steal. That MIT will not have. Stanford will not have that. I live in the shadow of Stanford. I see it every day. They will not get it. That's what we want to protect with the resources of this campaign. Thank you for embracing the campaign. Thank you for all you've done in the campaign. And thank you for being a part of the campaign for the next 5 years. Thank you.